YouTubers, welcome to another action-packed special edition of Trends in the Housing Market. I am your humble host, Mike Martins, and it is the 21st of March 2017. And it is springtime. It's in the air. I feel it. The sun, it's feeling good. I'm getting things done around the house. I'm loving it. Follow my segment in my channel called Living the Dream, where I left the city, major city, 2 hours out, 2.5 hours, whatever. We're not going to argue the distance. And I'm living a great life. I bought a gigantic house on an acre of land in a cul-de-sac in a small town that has everything. I don't need to leave town. It has everything in it. Follow that Living the Dream segment. It's fantastic. But for trends in the housing markets today, I got some really good action-packed articles you guys better listen to, share, tell your friends on social media, share this on social media, because this whole housing fiasco is not being talked enough by the bigger hitters. The news is finally starting to come out about it because that's all anyone's talking about in an English-speaking world. And in an English-speaking world, because of the free markets where the highest bidder come in and buy, it's been making it very hard for the Canadian common or the Australian proper or the New Zealand proper or the British proper to be able to afford to buy in their own countries with great incomes. Anyways, I got a few hard-hitting articles here that I want to share with you guys and put them out there for you guys because they actually talk. A lot of the articles here are talking about what I've been talking about in the last 2.5 years. Now, first article, let's start out in Vancouver. Christy Clark, Premier of British Columbia, says the House of Cards could fall as housing prices. Foreign ownership rise in Vancouver and Victoria. New high-rise housing in Yaletown area, Vancouver, are pictured in this photo. So it's showing a photo of a new high-rise going up in Yaletown. And after 6 months, when a foreign ownership tax fails, it would only cause racially charged conversation to go beyond where they are now. Real estate mogul and BC Liberal major donor Rob Rainey, June 2016. That's what he quoted. Premier Christy Clark built a house of cards that could collapse when British Columbians vote in just 7 weeks. Because both housing prices and foreign ownership are back on the rise in Metro Vancouver, which has English-speaking world's third most housing affordability. So somebody's watching these videos there. I'm so happy somebody's watching these videos because they're starting to realize, because they're saying exactly what I say. The English-speaking world, English-speaking countries. They're understanding that, hey, this guy, me, I'm right. It's happening. New Zealand, Australia, you're all being plagued with this. Why? Because of the free markets. It's happening, just as the BC Liberal government last week accepted foreign nationals with work permits and up to 170,000 foreign students from Metro Vancouver, 15% buyer's tax, letting them apply for refunds if they recently bought homes. And in Victoria, where there is no foreign buyer's tax, Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation issued a red warning alert due to rapid price hikes and overvaluation of housing. In Metro Vancouver, the condominium benchmark price jumped 2.3 over the past 6 months to $526,000. And Reuters reports Vancouver housing prices rose 0.3 in January, while Sotheby's International Realty Canada says international buyers, primarily Chinese nationals, are adjusting to the new foreign buyer's tax. That's a huge challenge to BC Liberals because the polls are saying that most important election issue is the affordable housing, and increasingly the province doesn't have any. Yes, it's a free market. It's always going to be to the highest bidder, period. Housing, poverty, homelessness are the most pressing concerns for 29% of BC voters compared to 18% of healthcare and 17% for jobs and economy. If you can't afford to live in the city, what's the point of working there if you can't afford to live there? You get what I'm saying? Jobs should be the last thing. It's housing. You need to lay roots for jobs in the economy. According to November 2016 Inside West poll, 71% said Clark had done either a very bad job on their top issue. What's more is that BC's economy has become previously dependent on property tax, with up to 40% of the province's gross domestic product coming from real estate sector 2015 2016, while the resource revenue is 7%. Condo market Bob Rene was only half right. The foreign buyers tax has failed, but without a racism outbreak. The inconvenient truth with Christy Clark is that housing affordability is still well beyond the reach of buyers and renters, also like Metro Vancouver, and getting rapidly worse everywhere in BC. And for many voters, it will be the top issue on May 9th election. So let me know who you guys are going to vote for in the next election. I know who I'm voting for. And you know what? I'm going to be really frank with you. It's not a racist thing. There's nothing to do with race. It's finding out why the housing is becoming unaffordable. Do you know? It's going to get to a point where it's like in Australia. A one-bedroom flat or one-bedroom apartment is $800,000. And it's been going like that in Australia for a long time. And while Australia and New Zealand watched the housing crumble in the United States in 2008, they were really angered that there was no housing crash there in Australia and New Zealand and London. You see where I'm going with this? It's not a race thing. It's targeting where and why this is happening. Because if Canadian proper can't buy a house in Canada and they have good incomes, there's something wrong. Anyways, let's continue here. Vancouver, this is by Delphine Braham. Third housing sector would make Vancouver more affordable for middle class. Okay. Even with the slight moderate of Vancouver's housing prices following the imposition of taxes and foreign buyers and empty homes, the stark reality is that the average family can no longer afford to live there. I left. I live in Merritt. I love Merritt. I love living here. There's no traffic. There's no bad drivers when there are cars on the road. The housing, I bought a mansion on an acre of land in a cul-de-sac for $260,000. I'm living a great life. Everything's here in the city. There's help wanted signs everywhere. And this is Canada proper. I'm living in Canada proper, and I love it. I'm going to raise my kids here. If God permits, I'm going to raise my kids here, and everything's going to go well. And I'm loving it. Let's continue here. Double-income families with well-paid jobs can barely manage to find housing that meets their needs without the financial help of parents and other family members. The provincial government's interest-free down payment loan up to $37,500 will help some, but the money may fuel a price rise, and it does not need to be repaid after 5 years by young families already saddling with record levels of debt. And student loans are considered debt too, by the way. Companies, university colleges, and hospitals and school districts are finding it increasingly difficult to recruit people to fill jobs vacated by retiring baby boomers. Technology companies are delaying expansion because they can't get employees. Merry Christmas! I've been talking about this for the last year. I've been talking to CEO and owners of big companies that come to my company and they tell me, yo, Mike, I'm moving out to my company out to Langley, Abbotsford, so my employees don't have to drive 2 hours to come into work. This way, it's a halfway point. They can live in Hope, they can live in Chilliwack, and they can still come to work because it's closer. And that's what's happening. People say, I qualify for the job. Let me try the job. No, they want qualified people that know how to do the job, especially in the private sector. Private sector, when the private sector private sector employers are paying payroll admittance. They're paying, wages. They're paying, and it's really hard to keep a medium size and a bigger size company afloat. Now, when you're paying out all those remittances and this and, benefits and stuff, you gotta have the right employee. You're just not gonna grab somebody to fill the position. But when you go into the public sector, government, it's full of seat fillers, just people filling seats, just for the sake of filling seats. And that's being paid by our tax money. Anyways, let me continue here. The affordability crisis is also fraying the social fabric. In addition to neighborhoods hollowed out by empty homes, Van City Credit Union found that charitable giving has dropped 20% in the past 5 years. 82% of the 800 British Columbians surveyed said they reduced their donations because the increased of living costs and reduced disposable income. Radical changes is needed, says Larry Beasley, Vancouver's former core director of planning. Small tweaks aren't good enough, nor will simply building more of the same be enough to solve this affordability crisis, because it's no longer just a matter of supply and demand anymore. If increasing supply were the answer, Vancouver wouldn't have this problem because the city already has twice the density of Seattle. Even the suburbs are rapidly increasing their populations, yet prices continue to rise. For both renters and buyers, prices are disconnected from the domestic economy. World wealth is out competing local wealth, he says, and there's no way that we can simply build our way out of the problem. This is a good article. This is a good article. Who wrote this thing? Daphne Braham. I'm sorry, Daphne, but this is a very good article. I wanted to read this in my show here. Let's see where she goes on. This is a fantastic article, guys. It's a little bit long for me to read on the show. I'll leave a link below. I want you guys to comment and read this. This is fantastic. Let me know what you guys think. It goes into specific numbers and stuff. And let's go now to Toronto. Toronto's still facing the same problem. Since that foreign tax was put in Vancouver, the wave went east and south to Seattle, and Toronto got hit. This article is kind of sad. No fixed address, stuck in your housing situation in Toronto. New proof it's a vicious circle. Same thing that happened. Same patterns. The first time Jessica Whitehead and Sean Kosnick lost a bidding war on a home in Toronto, they felt a little let down. Of course. But after countless other offers, they've reached a grim acceptance they may never win. Depressed isn't the right word, but dejected, Kosnick says. His partner echoes him quietly. Sometimes we're pretty discouraged. Whitehead works as a teacher in the Toronto District School Board, and Kosnick is a contractor. The couple, both 31, live in an older apartment building in the Junction neighborhood. They have saved up as much as they can afford for a down payment, but they say they keep getting outbid. In the least one bidding war was as much as $60,000 were outbid. Even in the 5 months we've been looking, it's gone from possible to impossible, Kosnick said. In September 2016, the renters were first pre-approved for a mortgage at $550,000. But then the federal government tightened the mortgage rules. The new stress test pushed them out of the market. The stress test requires buyers to prove they could still make the payments, and if the interest rate was to jump to 4.64%. My crystal ball. Let me grab my crystal ball. 4.64%. Why are they forecasting that? On a stress test. Percent or 5-year loan. We've dropped 100 large within a month, said Whitehead. When we started saving 5 years ago, 500 large could probably get something and it would be fairly decent. Not huge by any means, but now we only see condos. Sad. We're going to leave a link below to this video too. It's got a video and it's got the article there. I invite you guys to read it. It's really good. And I got another one from Toronto. This is a classic, people. So I got to share this one. Even Toronto's 1% are being priced out of the housing market, says BMO. I'm going to repeat that in case your ears did not believe what I just told you. Even Toronto's 1% are being priced out of the housing market. Yeah, the top 1%. Let me zoom into this so I could see it. Toronto's, hold on, let me zoom it in property. Here we go. Toronto's runaway house prices could threaten the city's economy if even the wealthiest 1% of earners find themselves priced out of the market. As is now happening, the Bank of Montreal Economics Branch is warning. BMO chief economist Douglas Porter crunched the numbers and found that someone earning $225,000 Large, $225,000 a year, right at the cutoff line for being in the 1%, would not be able to afford to buy the average price single-family home in Toronto. I just had to pause there for a second. I had to collect some thoughts here. That's despite the fact that the earner would be considered rich under tax rules. Anyone in Ontario earning above 220 large pays a combined top marginal tax rate of 53.53%. Taking into account the stress test for mortgages, the Federal Law Liberals Institute last year, Porter estimates that the couple earning $225,000 with 100 large for a down payment will be able to afford a house of $987,000. The average single family home in Toronto in February is $1.57 million. And it goes into a mathematical charts here for you guys to look at. I had to share that, sorry, because this happened in Vancouver. And we need to go out to Sydney. Sydney. Foreign property buyers are pricing locals out of the market. Same thing that's happening in Toronto. More than 10% of residential properties sold in New South Wales are being snapped up by foreigners, according to the new figures released under Freedom of Information laws, with a third of them bought by Chinese nationals. The figures cover a period from July to September last year, after the federal rules were introduced ensuring that foreign nationals declare purchases correctly. They show that 11% of all houses and units sold in that period across New South Wales were bought by foreigners, with the vast majority of overseas buyers targeting red-hot Sydney property market. The figure for Greater Sydney would be much higher, but was not made available. And it comes despite the New South Wales introducing 4% foreign investor stamp duty surcharge in June last year. So 33% is from China, 11% is from the United Kingdom, 11% is from New Zealand, and 10% is from India. So those are all the foreign buyers coming in to buy. So what I would, I'll give you guys a little bit of an insight, what I spoke to in a few videos ago, and they're actually thinking about it in a few places. Let's head off to New Zealand. This one's very sad. All you Kiwis down there, I feel for you. I'm with you guys, man. I'm with you Kiwis, man. New Zealand housing crisis forces hundreds to live in tents and garages. Property prices in Auckland have increased nearly 80%, 80 points in 5 years, leaving some families unable to buy or rent. Hundreds of families in Auckland are living in cars, garages, and even shipping containers, as housing crisis fueled by rising property prices forces low-income workers out of private rental accommodation. Charity groups have warned that, and the Southern Hemisphere winter approaches, most of the premises have no electricity, sewerage, or cooking facilities. It's horrible. I don't even know what to say, guys. This is not the people who haven't been trying. They have been trying very hard and they're still failing, said Campbell Roberts of the Salvation Army, who worked in South Auckland for 25 years. A few years ago, people in this situation were largely unemployed or very low income, but consistently now we are finding people coming to us who are in work and have their life together in other ways, but housing is eluding them. Auckland's housing market is one of the most expensive in the world, with property prices increasing 77.5% over the last 5 years. This growth has now slowed, and the average housing price fetched over 940,000 New Zealand dollars. That's 440,000 pounds. Wow. According to CoreLogic in New Zealand. This is hard. This is really, 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 really hard. It's really hard to see something like this happening. So I spoke about something maybe 20, 30 videos ago, about last year maybe. I was talking about implementing a mirror policy in countries. And the mirror policy stops you from being a racist. It's very simple how the mirror policy works. I'll call it mirror foreign policy. We'll use an example, Australia. A mirror foreign policy for Australia will work like this. Australian proper that wants to live, for example, in Thailand can't. You can't live in Thailand. You're not allowed to work there, and you're not allowed to buy property. So people from Thailand that want to live in Australia would just mirror what happens to Australians when they go to Thailand. Okay? I'm not picking on Mexico. I keep bringing Mexico up. Me encantan los mexicanos. Me encanta el idioma, la gente, la comida. I love Mexico. I've been to Mexico 20, 30 times. A lot of times. I spent 18 months there. I wanted to marry a Mexican woman. It was a long time ago. But anyways, what I'm saying is I wanted to buy a property in Mexico. They told me, no, I'm a foreigner. And that was the first time I was hit with that. Wow, I'm a foreigner. Okay, I'm a foreigner. But I can't buy property. It's 20 grand. I can buy this house. No, we don't want you here. You're a foreigner. What if no, we can't buy this property. Okay, so if you create a mirror foreign, how do you call it? A mirror foreign policy, okay? How it works is, I'm a Canadian, for example. I'm a Portuguese Canadian. I'm dual citizen. I want to go to Mexico. I can't buy a house. I can't open a bank account. I can't do nothing. I can't work there. Fine. The Mexican proper that wants to come to Canada will also face that mirrored problem where they can't buy a house, they can't same thing. So if someone comes into power in Australia and says, no, we're going to use this mirrored image, it's not going to make us racist because we're just copying the country that has those rules. You're just taking what that country is offering your people and you're offering it to their people. There's nothing racist about it. There's nothing wrong about it. It's actually legit. It's a legit policy right across the board. There's no racism. No one's picking on races. No one's picking on religions. No one's picking on anything. Okay? So for example, I want to immigrate to Mexico. I can't. There's so much red tape. All those same laws, instead of creating all these laws just copy the exact laws for a Canadian to live and work in Mexico, take that and flip it over and put it into Canadian law. Just translate exactly what it says in Spanish into English. That's it. Just go to translator. Done. Japan is very loose with Canadians living in Japan. So Japanese coming to Canada will be a little bit easier because it's not so hard for Canadians to live in Japan or Taiwan. It's not hard for Canadians to live in Taiwan and get a business or a work license or buy in Taiwan. It's not that hard for a Canadian. It's a little bit of work, but you can. Same thing for Taiwanese coming to Canada. It's the same. You see what I'm saying? You're building a mirrored two-way, and it's not racist. So when they say, oh, how come a Mexican can't buy in Canada? Well, we're not. It's because we can't buy in your country. That's it. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of countries. I know when I was in Thailand, it was like that. China's like that. Mexico, of course. I'm not picking on Mexico. But Mexico, where else was I that was like that? There's a lot of countries that, like, a lot. There's like over 90 countries that's like that, where you can't buy if you're a foreigner. You can't open a bank account. You just can't immigrate there. You know what I'm saying? So I think implementing a law like this will make it balanced. So this will make it easier for other countries for people to immigrate to. So if I want to go to Mexico and buy a retirement home and live the rest of my years there, there shouldn't be a problem for that, right? Maybe then Mexico would say, hey, maybe we're too hard on Canadians. Maybe, the Canadian people are not that bad. Maybe we should loosen up, let some Canadians in, buy retirement homes. They'll spend money here. They'll spend their retirements here, their retirement savings here. And the country could do economically better through more tourism, long stay tourism. And that's what should happen eventually. I don't know, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below. Your comments mean a lot to me. Thanks for watching, guys.